The sun was dipping below the pines, casting a golden glow over my private lake when I found the notice taped to my boat. My small fishing skiff, docked at the edge of my property in Crescent Meadows, had been a fixture for years, bobbing peacefully by my cabin. But the letter, stamped with the HOA's seal, was a demand. Remove your unauthorized vessel immediately or face fines. I laughed, recognizing the handwriting. Karen Miller, the HOA's resident tyrant, was at it again. Karen, who'd banned my farm stand, raged over avocados, thrown coffee at my mother, and hosted an illegal fishing derby, had a knack for picking fights she couldn't win. This time, she targeted my boat, claiming it violated community aesthetics and obstructed the lake. What she didn't know was that I, Sarah, owned the entire lake. Every ripple, every fish, every inch of shoreline. As head of the county's Wildlife Conservation Department, I'd bought the lake years ago to protect its rare ecosystem, and it was legally mine, not the HOA's. I scanned the notice, spotting a mention of the Crescent Meadows Fishing Club, a group Karen had revived to beautify the lake with their rods and coolers. They'd been fishing without my permission, littering my shores and disturbing protected species. Karen's demand wasn't just about my boat. It was a power grab, a way to assert control over a lake she thought was public. My blood boiled, but a grin spread across my face. She'd handed me the perfect chance to shut her down for good. I grabbed my phone, already planning. Karen and her fishing club were about to learn a hard lesson about property rights and conservation. I wasn't just moving my boat. I was evicting her club, exposing her overreach, and turning her latest stunt into a Crescent Meadows legend. What happened next wasn't just a victory. It was a jaw-dropping showdown that left the HOA reeling and the community cheering. Crescent Meadows was a gated suburb that had shed its HOA shackles, thanks to my battles against Karen Miller. Once a maze of identical homes and petty fines, it now buzzed with creativity, colorful murals, quirky lawns, and my thriving Meadow Mart store. My private property, a 12-acre haven on the community's edge, centered around Crescent Lake, a sparkling gem I'd purchased a decade ago to preserve its rare crescent bluefin fish. The lake, my sanctuary, was off-limits to unauthorized access, marked by private property signs and a gated dock where my boat rested. I'm Sarah, the farmer, store owner, and head of the county's Wildlife Conservation Department. My fights with Karen were legendary, buying Meadow Mart after she banned my farm stand, turning her avocado tantrum into a community win, exposing her coffee-throwing assault on my mother, and stopping her illegal fishing derby. My lake was my pride, a conservation site where I monitored species and hosted eco-tours for schools. My boat, a modest skiff, was used for research, not recreation, and sat legally on my dock. Karen Miller, the ex-HOA enforcer in her mid-50s, was a persistent thorn. Her tailor blazers and clipboard couldn't hide her desperation to reclaim power after multiple humiliations. Ousted from the HOA board and shunned after her arrest, she'd resurfaced with the Crescent Meadows Fishing Club, a front to meddle in community affairs. The club, mostly her loyalists and clueless recruits, fished my lake without permission, leaving bait cans and hooks that threatened my bluefins. Key allies included my mother, Ellen, a conservation advocate who'd helped me secure the lake's deed, Tom, a biologist who tracked its ecosystem, and Linda, the councilwoman who'd backed my past victories. The fishing club's members, families and retirees lured by Karen's promises of lake access, were unaware they were trespassing. Their boats and gear cluttered my shore, a stark contrast to the lake's natural beauty. The setting was Crescent Lake, a pristine oasis ringed by willows and wildflowers. My cabin overlooked the water, with my dock and boat tucked into a cove. No trespassing signs and a locked gate marked my boundaries, but Karen had ignored them, likely picking the lock to let her club in. Her notice on my boat was a bold move, claiming the HOA could regulate lakefront aesthetics. It was a lie. She had no jurisdiction, and I had the deed to prove it. This wasn't just about a boat. It was Karen's latest bid to control what wasn't hers, endangering my lake's ecosystem in the process. For me, it was a chance to protect my property expose her ignorance, and rally Crescent Meadows around conservation and rights. As I read her notice, I knew this fight would redefine our community's future. Karen's notice was a declaration of war. The HOA's demand to move my boat, backed by threats of fines, was absurd. My lake was private, and the HOA had no authority. Worse, her fishing club was wreaking havoc, their hooks snagging bluefins and their litter choking my shores. I started filming, capturing the club's boats, Karen's clipboard, and the private property sign she'd ignored. This was trespassing, plain and simple, and I wasn't letting it slide. I called Tom, who confirmed the club's fishing violated state wildlife laws. "Sarah, you own the lake. They're poaching on your land," he said, promising to bring rangers with citation powers. My mother dug up the lake's deed and conservation permits, texting, "Karen's clueless. Let's end this." I alerted Linda, who was outraged. "She's got no right," she said, vowing to bring legal support to revoke the club's charter. I approached the dock, where Karen was handing out fishing permits she'd printed herself. "Karen, this is my lake," I said, holding up my phone. "Your club's trespassing, and my boat's staying." She scoffed, waving her notice. "The HOA regulates lakefront property. Your boat's an eyesore." I laughed, showing the crowd my deed. "I own every drop of this water. You're the ones breaking the law." The club members hesitated, some lowering their rods. A retiree asked, "Is this really her lake?" I nodded, sharing the deed online via live stream. "Crescent Lake's a conservation site, not your playground," I said. Karen shouted, "She's lying. The HOA approved this." But her lies unraveled. Neighbors knew she'd been ousted, and my deed was ironclad. A mom packed up her kids' gear, muttering, "We didn't sign up for this." The community forum exploded as my livestream spread. Neighbors posted, "Karen's poaching again," with hashtags #KarenBoatBlunder and #SaveCrescentLake trending locally. Comments flooded in. "Sarah owns the lake? Kick her club out." I shared the deed, permits, and photos of the club's litter, captioning, "Karen's endangering our bluefins. Time to evict her." The likes surged, and news vans arrived, alerted by the viral stream. Karen doubled down, rallying her club. "Keep fishing," she urged, claiming I'd stolen the lake from the community. But the crowd was turning. Families left, embarrassed, while her loyalists looked nervous. Tom and 2 rangers arrived, badges out, and the mood shifted. "This is a protected site," Tom said, showing bluefin data. "You're all in violation." Karen's face paled, but she pointed at my boat. "Find her first," she demanded. Daniels, a ranger, shook his head. "Sarah's the owner. You're the trespasser." I kept streaming, narrating, "Karen's club is breaking wildlife laws on my lake. I'm evicting them today." Neighbors cheered, some helping rangers collect illegal gear. Linda arrived with a county attorney, announcing, "The HOA's notice is void. Sarah's within her rights to evict." The crowd roared, chanting, "Our lake. Our lake." Karen's clipboard trembled. She didn't know my conservation role gave me the power to shut her down legally and publicly. As rangers prepared to clear the shore, I planned my next move. This wasn't just about my boat. It was about protecting my lake and teaching Crescent Meadows to stand up for what's theirs. Karen's club was finished, but what happened next would shock everyone. The lake was a battleground. Karen stood by her club's tents, shouting, "This is our lake," as rangers moved in. My live stream hit tens of thousands of views, with hashtags #KarenBoatBlunder and #SaveCrescentLake trending nationally. Neighbors swarmed the shore, waving signs like "Sarah's Lake," "Sarah's Rules," and "No HOA Here." News crews filmed live, anchors calling it a property rights showdown. The air buzzed with defiance, and I was ready to deliver the knockout. Tom took charge, addressing the crowd. Crescent Lake is Sarah's private property and a state-protected conservation site. Fishing here without her permission is a felony. He showed photos of bluefins tangled in hooks, sparking gasps. "Karen's club has damaged this ecosystem," he said, pointing to litter piles. Parents packed up, apologizing, while kids asked, "Are the fish okay?" My mother handed out eco-flyers, explaining the bluefin's plight. "We can save them," she said, But Karen's got to go. Karen tried to spin it, telling her club, Sarah's hoarding the lake. The HOA has rights. But Daniel shut her down, holding on my deed. This is Sarah's property, and she's the county's wildlife conservation head. You're facing fines and eviction. The crowd gasped. My role was news to most. Karen's eyes widened, her clipboard sagging. She hadn't known I held the legal power to crush her stunt. The forum was a wildfire. Neighbors posted my deed and Tom's photos, with comments like Sarah's a conservation boss and Karen's toast. A viral tweet read, HOA Karen demands boat removal. Doesn't know owner's a wildlife chief who owns the lake. Hashtag epic takedown. My live stream hit 1 million views, with national wildlife groups joining in, praising my lake's protection and slamming Karen's reckless club. Even the HOA board, watching remotely, panicked. Leaked text showed them planning to disavow Karen. Linda amplified the stakes, telling reporters, Karen's notice is illegal, and her club's a threat to our environment. Sarah's eviction is justified. She announced a council motion to dissolve the fishing club and ban HOA overreach on private land. The crowd cheered, chanting evict, evict, as rangers confiscated rods and coolers. Karen tried to rally her loyalists, but they were abandoning ship, some apologizing to me. We didn't know, one said, handing over his bait. I grabbed the megaphone, sensing the moment. This lake's a sanctuary for our bluefins and our community, I said. Karen's club doesn't get to trash it. I'm evicting them, and we're hosting a lake protection day to restore what they've damaged. The crowd roared, neighbors volunteering to clean up. I shared a sketch online, a new Crescent Lake Preserve sign, state-funded, to mark my ownership in the lake status. The forum exploded. Sarah's saving our lake. Karen's done. Karen made a last stand, shouting, You can't evict us. But Daniels handed her an eviction notice, signed by me as property owner and conservation head. Leave now or face arrest, he said. The crowd parted, phones filming as rangers cleared her tents. Neighbors helped, tossing litter into bags, turning chaos into action. News cameras captured it, and the story went viral, headlined, Wildlife Chief Evicts HOA Fishing Club from her lake. As Karen's club collapsed, I rallied the crowd. Let's protect this lake together, I said, handing out cleanup kits. The stage was set for a victory that would save my bluefins, bury Karen's HOA dreams, and inspire Crescent Meadows. What happened next would leave everyone stunned. The lakeshore was alive with purpose. Karen stood alone, her club's gear confiscated, as rangers enforced my eviction notice. My livestream peaked at 2 million views, with hashtags #KarenBoatBlunder and #SaveCrescentLake dominating social media. Neighbors cheered, signs waving, as news crews filmed the end of Karen's fishing club. I held the megaphone, my role as wildlife conservation head now a badge of authority, ready to seal her defeat. Daniels addressed Karen, his voice firm. You've trespassed on private property and violated wildlife laws. As Sarah's eviction stands, you're fined $5,000 and your club's dissolved. Karen's face collapsed, her voice a whisper. This is my community. Daniels held up my deed. This is Sarah's lake, and you're done here. The crowd erupted, chanting Sarah, Sarah, as Karen's last allies slunk away. Linda took the mic, her presence commanding. Sarah's not just our neighbor. She's our conservation chief, protecting this lake for all of us. Karen's club threatened our bluefins and our rights. Today, we evict her and reclaim our community. She announced the council's vote. The fishing club was banned, the HOA fined, and Lake Protection Day funded. The crowd roared, waving eco-flyers. My mother passed out. Tom projected bluefin data, showing hooks removed from the lake. Sarah's saved this species, he said, sparking applause. I unveiled the Crescent Lake Preserve sign sketch, declaring, This lake's mine, but its future's ours. No HOA can touch it. Neighbors cheered, kids hugging me, as I shared the eviction notice online. The forum exploded. Karen's out. Sarah's our hero. National outlets ran the story, headlined Conservation Head Evicts HOA from her lake. Karen tried to speak, but Daniels cut her off, escorting her to the Ranger truck. Phones filmed her exit, the crowd chanting "Bye, Karen." My digital dossier, deed, permits, videos of the club's litter, was handed to the press, ensuring her fine stuck. Rangers cleared the shore, neighbors cleaning alongside them, turning the Derby's mess into a triumph. Linda promised state protection for the lake, cementing its status. As Karen was driven away, I rallied the crowd. "This is our lake, our fight, our win," I said, handing out cleanup kits. The Lake Protection Day plans spread online, with wildlife groups pledging support. This wasn't just Karen's end. It was a new era for Crescent Meadows, where property rights and nature reigned. My boat stayed docked, a symbol of my victory, as the lake sparkled, safe and free. Karen's eviction was Crescent Meadows' triumph. News ran headlines like "Wildlife Chief Boots HOA from her lake," and "Sarah's Lake Stuns Karen's Club." My live stream hit 25 million views, with hashtags #KarenBoatBlunder and #SaveCrescentLake trending globally. Fan art of my boat as a conservation cruiser flooded the forum, and wildlife magazines called, but I focused on the lake. "It's about the bluefins," I told reporters. Lake Protection Day was a sensation. Hundreds joined: neighbors, kids, state ecologists, cleaning shores, planting reeds, and installing the Crescent Lake Preserve sign. Meadowmark catered, and Tom led bluefin tours, teaching kids to spot fry. The event raised $10,000 for monitoring, and state officials hailed it as a conservation model. The forum buzzed with photos. "Sarah's lake shines. No more Karens." The HOA crumbled. Linda's vote fined it $3,000 and banned lake access, with new rules requiring conservation audits. Karen paid her $5,000 fine. Her club dissolved and moved to a coastal condo, reportedly complaining about seagull noise. "Don't be a Karen" was carved on lake benches, a local mantra. My boat became a tourist draw, with visitors snapping photos by the dock. Meadowmart soared, its cafe hosting bluefin breakfasts to fund eco-projects. My farm stand sold conservation kits, and tourists visited Sarah's lake, boosting sales. Neighbors brought gifts, fish carvings, eco-poems, saying I'd taught them to fight for their rights. Tom's data showed bluefins thriving, celebrated at a community barbecue. The digital dossier, deed, videos, ranger citations, was studied for property rights laws, inspiring reforms. My mother, the lake's co-guardian, led eco-walks, her passion infectious. "You've made it untouchable," she told me, eyes on the water. I hired local youth as lake monitors, giving them purpose. The forum planned a Lake Freedom Fest, with music and eco-talks, sealing our commitment. Sarah turned Karen's power grab into our power. One post read, "At the fest, under a Preserve Forever banner, Linda toasted, 'To Sarah, Ellen, and Crescent Meadows, where rights and nature win.'" Fireworks lit the lake, kids danced, and my boat bobbed proudly. Karen's demand had been a spark, but we'd built a blaze. Meadowmart, my stand, and the lake were our legacy, proof no HOA could steal what's ours. As the stars shone, I knew Crescent Meadows would always stand firm, free, and wild.